Welcome back. Well, you saw the highlights and heard from the players. Now let's break this past Saturday's games down with our expert panel. It's time for Saturday Storylines here on Midco Sports Tonight, brought to you by Grand Falls Casino and Golf Resort. So we will start in Grand Forks with Alex Heinert. And Alex, a tough one-score loss to a ranked Eastern Washington team on Saturday. And even in defeat, the seniors on this team have nothing to hang their heads about, do they?
No, absolutely, Kelly. Maybe not so surprisingly, 1/3 of the 22 seniors on this team missed their senior day because of injury, and that pretty much sums up the season. But the group that did suit up played some of their best football of the year. Jake Disterhop gutted through this game and picked up a sack and 6 tackles. Keaton Sudsard was outstanding all day outside of 1 interception. And Stetson had the game of his life. Carr had only accounted for 154 receiving yards for the entire season entering Saturday. He almost doubled that in his last game in a UND uniform. You know, on the one hand, I think everybody around Grand Forks was very much ready to turn the page on this injury-plagued season and just get to 2018. But at the same time, you cannot take away what this senior class has meant to this program. They've brought UND back into the national spotlight, and really one tough year shouldn't diminish their accomplishments in the least. They're a really proud group of guys, and they have a lot to be proud of.
Well, I agree. Bittersweet ending to that season. Moving to Shawn in West Fargo. Let's talk about Easton Stick. Kind of the ultimate bounce-back game for him after he struggled in the Dakota Marker game. Why was he able to be so effective on Saturday?
Well, I think most importantly, North Dakota State was able to run the football. And if you're able to run the football and get explosive plays, then all of a sudden that play action just opens right up. And Easton only threw the ball 12 times, but he completed 11 passes for 307 yards and a touchdown. But explosive plays were really the name of the game for NDSU in this game. 9 plays of 20-plus yards against a South Dakota defense that in recent weeks has played pretty good. And the Bison just had no problem moving the line of scrimmage and finding plays in both the passing game and in the running game and getting a lot of different guys involved. And to get 647 total yards a week after really struggling offensively at South Dakota State, I think shows a lot about the leadership on this team and how some of those guys said we're going to bounce back and play our best football here down the stretch. With 20 seniors on that team, I think that's a huge advantage.
I do too. I'm averaging 11.2 yards per play in that game, so that was big for them. Well, now moving down to Sioux Falls, I'm joined by Tom Nieman and Jay Elsen to talk USD and SDSU, but we'll start with USD, Jay. Playing in Fargo, and they just really struggled defensively, specifically against the run, but was there a particular spot that they really struggled in that area?
Yeah, and Brian talked about it. I mean, the 7.4 yards per rush, that's going to be a problem. Yes. I don't care who you're playing against, but overall, NDSU just was going to do whatever it wanted to in the running game, but particularly, Kelly, when they stretched things outside the tackle, the Coyotes just couldn't get it fit, and they couldn't get it stopped. And the other problem is, even if they were there, they weren't tackling. Mm-hmm. And so that was huge chunks of yards at different times. Didn't matter if it was a wide receiver like Dimitri Williams running the football here, or Ty Brooks, or Seth Wilson, or Easton Stick. Didn't matter who was doing it. If they were getting outside to the edge and able to turn that corner, USD was in some trouble on Saturday. And that's, indicative of a team that's struggling, obviously, but it's not been, for most of the season, the way this team has defended their run. Outside of this game and Illinois State, they've really been pretty good. So I think it's something that's correctable. Yes. Part of it's personnel and the fact that this team is struggling with the injury bug, just like just about everybody else at this point in the season. But certainly that's playing a role in this. I think these are correctable things, and it's something they're certainly going to have to do better if they want to win this week against South Dakota State.
Well, like you said, not much time to dwell on this one because they do have that rivalry game coming up this weekend. But Tom, let's talk about Saturday's game against Illinois State, a 27-24 overtime win for the Jackrabbits. But you look at the box score in this one, and it didn't look very characteristic of either team. So were there kind of some out-of-the-ordinary plays going on?
There was some weird stuff going on. The bounces, the breaks, the mojo in this game really went against South Dakota State, and we'll take a look at some of the highlights here as there were some fumbles, things like that. This is a 3rd and 5, and Illinois State fumbles, goes right back to the quarterback. They convert on this. They go in for a touchdown and score after that fiasco. So they get on the board there, and then in the second quarter, Taryn Christian, this is in here just because South Dakota State goes up on a nice play by Taryn on a touchdown to Jacob Brown. They go up 17-7, and Jacks fans are thinking, all right, we got control of this thing, but they never really got control at all because ensuing kickoff means this is going back 100-plus yards. It's the first kickoff return for a touchdown in a Valley game this year. And, of course, the Jackrabbits give it up. They've given up a punt return for a touchdown. They've given up some big returns. Anyway, the Rabbits get it done despite some adversity. There was another fumble late in the ball game where Illinois State was going in. Quarterback fumbles, falls right back on it with a Jackrabbit lineman all over him. So the breaks kind of went against the Jacks, but they find a way on the Chase Vinatieri field goal in overtime to win it. So they've overcome quite a bit of that. Fumbles, by the way, in the Missouri Valley Football Conference, teams recover 55% of the fumbles they cause. South Dakota State is way below that. They are 9th. USD is right behind them. Those USD and South Dakota State are the bottom two teams in recovering their own fumbles. They've created a lot but haven't been able to get on them. So we'll see how that plays out this weekend.
Well, exactly. This weekend, the huge rivalry game, the last game of the regular season in the Missouri Valley. And you look at the playoff picture, SDSU with a lot of momentum, USD losing 3 of their last 4. And I know coaches hate when you ask this, but is this a must-win for USD, Jay?
You know, I struggle with that because I personally think this team is in at 7-4 with an FBS win in their pocket. I think that's enough. But there is a growing concern that should you lose this game and lose 4 of your last 5 to close the regular season, that maybe the committee would look down on that. However, from a conference perspective, you have to remember the Valley is the group that schedules this. This is not on USD. And so should they be penalized for an extremely difficult schedule that's been placed in front of them by the Valley? That's a great question and one that's, honestly tough to answer, but they're also not the only ones dealing with that. And so other teams are facing just as difficult of a slate down the stretch here as the Coyotes are, and they're finding ways to win. And so is it a must-win? I say no, but it certainly would eliminate all concern if they were to get the win.
It would do that, and if South Dakota State does beat USD, it might depend on what Illinois State does against North Dakota State. If Illinois State could knock off NDSU, that game is in Normal, Illinois. That would get Illinois State to 7 wins. If
then it
South
gets
Dakota, then it does really get crazy if that happens this weekend. But there is so much coming down to the end of the season here in these last games on Saturday.
All right, well, definitely looking forward to it on Saturday. Thanks, guys.
Be good.
Coming up after the break, we throw it up to Grand Forks, where Alex Heinert gives us the lowdown on UND hockey's weekend series with Miami University of Ohio. Stay right here.